up, Celebrate Recovery family? Listen, I want to come to you and share the lesson that we're going to be talking about this Sunday. So if you're tuning in maybe after Sunday, or maybe you're watching this now, we are having our Celebrate Recovery service here on our campus. We're doing drive-in style. So come join us. If you are seeing this early, we start at 6 o'clock. We would love to have you. It's going to be a time of celebration. And honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be able to teach this message live tonight at our drive-in service because we have so many folks that are going to be celebrating their milestones. We got chips to give out, and it's going to be just a very fun and encouraging time for our CR attenders. Now, tonight we're going to be looking at choice number 3. Let me tell you a little story to get you going. So there's this guy, he's a pet store delivery guy. He was driving down the road, and this man behind him was watching what he was doing, and there was some strange behavior happening. Every time this pet store delivery guy would stop at a stop sign, he would jump out of his truck, grab a 2x4, run to the back of his truck, wham, wham, hit the truck, jump back in his truck, and take off. The guy behind him was puzzled, like, what in the heck is this guy doing? His behavior looked like he was, like a moron, or he was a psychopath, like who gets out of their truck? Like, is the truck misbehaving? So he goes to another stop sign, he sees the same behavior again. And so finally the guy pulls up beside him and says, hey buddy, what are you doing? What in the world? Why do you keep jumping out of your truck and doing all this? And the guy had a very simple explanation. He said, listen, he says, I have a 2-ton truck, but I'm carrying 4 tons of canaries. So I got to keep half of them in the air while I drive down the road so I'm able to carry them. So every time I stop, I hit the truck so that half of the birds, or at least half of them, fly around so that I'm able to pull the load. Now, the guy looked at him and said, why would you put 4 tons of canaries on a 2-ton truck? It seems like an odd story, and that would definitely be odd behavior if we saw that. But here's the reality is, often we do this. We are carrying so much weight in our life, more weight than we were intended to carry. When we're struggling with pain, struggling with issues that we're trying to ignore, or that we are in denial about, we're actually doing this type of behavior. We're whapping a truck with a 2x4 so we can keep moving along. Now, eventually we're going to wear out. And if you're in Celebrate Recovery, hopefully you've come to the understanding that you don't have the power, the ability to carry the burdens of your hurts, habits, and hang-ups all yourself. That's why you're here, and we're glad that you are. See, we get stuck in life many times. We get stuck in our own power, and when that happens, despair sets into our life. We begin to feel hopeless about, hey, we can't change, hopeless that things can get better, and just downright hopeless on life. Like, maybe we don't want to live. If I got to live like this, dealing with these issues, then I don't want to live. Many people struggle with those thoughts, struggle with those feelings. We feel guilty about our behavior. We wish we could change our mess, get out of our mess, but we can't. We fail time and time again. We make promises to ourselves. We become angry with ourselves, and we eventually, that fear sets in that will never really change. We begin to realize that our hurts, habits, and hang-ups are controlling us, and our fear eventually oppresses us into a state of depression. This is a reality for lots of people. It's at times in my life has been a reality. We start feeling sorry for ourselves, and we become filled with more guilt. We say, I quit, and the cycle of despair starts all over again. Let me show you this image here. This is a illustration of what the cycle of despair looks like. So if you look, you have, guilt that leads to anger, anger that leads to fear, fear that leads to depression, depression that leads to guilt, guilt that leads to anger. And you may jump on this cycle at any of those points, but this is a common cycle of what you feel, the things that you're dealing with. So here's the question: how do you break this relentless cycle? How do you get out of this crazy cycle of despair? It starts with this. The past 2 weeks we talked about choice 1 and choice 2. Choice 1, realize I'm not God. I admit that I'm powerless to control my tendency to do the wrong thing and that my life is unmanageable. That's the first step. We have to come to terms that we are not in control of all aspects of every part of our life. The second principle is what we talked about last week. It says, earnestly believe that God exists and that I matter to Him and that He has the power to help me recover. Many people believe that God exists, but a lot of people struggle with believing or understanding that you matter to Him and that He has the power to help you and He's willing and able to help you. And tonight leads us to our third principle, which only is possible if we take those first two principles serious and we walk the steps out in those principles. It's choice number 3. It's the choice that sends you down the road of real change. It's walking across the line. It's stepping towards God and away from who you are, away from your hurts, habits, and hang-ups. It's experiencing real healing. It's allowing Him, God, to make you into a new creation. This is what Principle 3 says. Consciously choose to commit all my life and will to Christ's care and control. It's called surrender. This is where, if you are a Christian, your salvation came at Principle 3, is where you consciously chose to commit all your life, your will, over to the care and control of Christ. Maybe you've never truly made that choice. Maybe you never committed your life to Christ. Or maybe you have, but somewhere down the road, you booted Him out of the driver's seat and you took the wheel. Right now, Jesus is reaching out to you and He's inviting you to a new start, to a new life. He's waiting for you to step across that line, to choose to commit your life to His care and control. His arms are wide open and He's standing there ready to receive you. Matthew 11:28-30 says this, come to me all you who are weary and overburdened, and I will give you rest. Put on my yoke and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Jesus says that because He understands that humanity is burdened down by the weight of our sin, by the weight of the sin of those around us. And this involves or is part of our hurts, habits, and hang-ups. All those are rooted in sin, whether it's indirect or direct sin, whether it's internal or external sin. All hurts, habits, and hang-ups are a result of sin. What's holding you back? It's been said that our choices determine our circumstances and our decisions determine our destiny. So what is holding you back? I want to present to you 5 key things that hold us back from committing our life over to the care and control of Christ. Number 1 is pride. Pride often keeps us from admitting that we need God's help. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We're strong. We got the ability. If I just fight hard, if I just try hard, I'm going to do it. Pride is self-sufficiency in that way. I can do it. I can do it. We don't want help. We don't need help. And that is one of the biggest lies that's out there. We all are in need of help. Proverbs 10:8 says, a self-sufficient fool falls flat on his face. God didn't create you to be self-sufficient. He created you to need other people. Even when creation was good, before the fall of man, it wasn't good for Adam to be alone. God knew that he needed a helpmate. You were created to need help. You were created to be in community. You were created to do life with other people. And that is true also within your hurts, habits, and hang-ups. So many times we want to share our good parts of our life with other people and we want to keep the bad parts to ourselves. That's our pride. Happy are the meek, says the Beatitudes for this principle. But many see meekness as weakness. In reality, meekness is actually strength under control. In the Greek, this word was used to describe a wild stallion that is tamed and taught to be ridden. The stallion has the strength to overpower his rider, but he also has the control to be tamed. That makes him especially useful for his master. His meekness is strength under control. So to be meek is not to be weak. To be meek is to understand your strength and to allow it to be used in a way that is best suited for you, and especially in this circumstance for your hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Being meek is accepting the power of God, accepting God's control and care over your life. The second thing that becomes a stumbling block or that keeps you from giving your life over to the care and control of Christ is guilt. Sometimes we're simply too ashamed to ask God for help. We feel maybe we've done things too bad, or we're just way worse than most people out there. This guilt keeps us back. It isolates us from God. It isolates us from other people, even within the Christian community. Problems far too big for me to solve are piled higher than my head. Meanwhile, my sins too many to count have all caught up with me, and I am ashamed to look up. David wrote that Psalms 40:12, understanding and articulating his guilt. His problems are higher than his head. His sin is heavy. It's way too much to count, and they've all caught up with him. What's the result? I am ashamed to look up. His guilt. He feels guilty because of that. Have you ever felt that way? I know I have. Have you ever felt ashamed to look up to God? Or maybe you're hidden from God. That's exactly what Adam and Eve did in the garden. When they made the choice to disobey God, they felt ashamed. They hid from God in the garden. Sometimes I've been guilty of trying to make deals with God. God, if you get me out of this mess, I'll never do it again. What you have to realize is that God knows all things, including your heart. He knows your circumstances, He knows your hurts, habits, and hang-ups, but He also knows your heart, the intent of your heart, the motivation of who you are as a person. And you must believe that there isn't any sin that He's not willing to forgive. There's not any sin too far or too great for God to forgive. He's a loving and merciful God. And that guilt always separates us from God. It's condemnation. See, God uses conviction. Conviction makes us aware of where we went wrong, our sins. But the point of conviction is always to draw us closer to Him. Condemnation is guilt-driven, and it pushes us away from Him. A lot of people use condemnation, and that's a tool to push other people away. The third thing is fear. Fear is a huge obstacle in coming and giving our lives over to the care and control of Christ. Maybe you're afraid of what you might have to give up if you surrender your care and control to Christ. I remember as a young man thinking, if I really, really give my life to Christ, if I really surrender to Him, then I'm giving up all this other stuff over here that I really like, that I enjoy. And that was a huge decision for me. And many times we fear, what does this really look like? What does my life look like if I give it all up? If I give it up and I just let God do what He wants to do in my life, what will He do? Will He do things that I don't want to do? Will He send me places I don't want to go? Will He ask me to be a person that I don't want to be? That's the root of that is really fear, right? It's a lack of trust. Many times we think of things that we enjoy, and we know that God doesn't really want us to participate or do those things, and we don't really want to lose those things. Fear sets in and we hold back, right? Fear takes many forms. Sometimes we're afraid to trust God. There's a guy, story real quick. He fell off a cliff and he grabs a branch and he holds on to this branch, right? And he looks up and he cries out for help. Hey, God, help me. God comes, responds to his call and says, let go of the branch. The man looks up and says, is there anybody else up there? I think that's often how we're reacting to our situations. We want to control how we get help or how God helps us. And God is essentially calling us with our hurts, habits, and hang-ups. He said, hey, just let go. You have to trust me. Trust my process. Trust my provision. Trust my power. Trust my my character. I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to make things right. That doesn't mean it won't be painful, but I'm going to make it better. But you got to trust me. Sometimes we're afraid of losing control. We're just fearful that, hey, if we give it all over to God, that we're no longer the decision maker. We don't determine how our life ends or how it looks, and we don't want to lose that control. And sometimes we're afraid of becoming religious fanatics if I just give it all over to Christ, I'm going to be labeled as one of those buffoons, one of those weird Christians walking around with a Bible, preaching at people on the street corners. People are going to look at me like I'm an idiot. People are going to look at me like I'm weird, like I'm not intelligent. And that fear of becoming a Christian fanatic can hold us back from giving our lives fully over to the care and control of Christ. Maybe you've seen one of those guys yelling and condemning people at football games or on the street corner, and you've thought to yourself, I definitely don't want to be that dude. He's weird. I remember before I was a Christian, I used to think Christians were weird. Like they were just like their sayings and the things that they did, it just didn't make any sense to me as a non-believer. And I was fearful, like I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be perceived as a weirdo. And maybe people see me that way now. I don't know. The fourth thing that keeps us back is worry. Worry causes us to focus on problems rather than the decisions to help us be released from those problems. We become paralyzed by all the things that could happen. We become frozen in our worry. This is often called analysis paralysis, right? We analyze the situation. We worry about our situation, whether it's our hurts, habits, or hang-ups, or other people finding those things out, or in the case of turning your life over to the care and control of Christ, is if I do this, then we worry about what that looks like, losing control of that. And basically what we do is we get to a place where we're stuck. We are analyzing every possible outcome, every possible effect of that, and we just get stuck there. We become analysis paralysis type of people. Make the decision. Cross the line. God can help solve all the problems that seem to be in your way because He is a way maker. The fifth thing that really becomes a stumbling block or something that keeps us from committing our life over to the care and control of Christ is doubt. Doubt is one of these forbidden things in Christianity, right? Like people, if you're a strong Christian, a believing Christian, you can't have doubt, you can't wrestle with doubt. That's a sign of lack of faith. Actually, it's not. You would be surprised how many Christians, faithful Christians, struggle or wrestle with doubt. Doubt's a real thing. Doubt's intellectually, right? It's sometimes emotional doubt. Sometimes because of circumstances you're going through, or maybe you're going through a really difficult time. Maybe you've lost someone that you love or care about. Maybe your life didn't turn out the way you thought it should turn out, and you doubt. You doubt God. You doubt His goodness. You doubt His plan. You doubt His provision. Maybe you don't feel like you have enough faith. But here's what I want you to know. It's not the size of your faith that matters. It's the size of what you put your faith in that matters. We all put our faith in something. We place our faith in the economy. We place our faith in our government. We'll place our faith in our education. We'll place our faith in our own ability to understand logic and reason and make choices. We're placing our faith in something. And it's the size of what you place your faith in that determines how big your faith is. You can approach God and have just a small faith. But if you put that small faith in God, man, it can turn in and grow and do incredible things in your life, not because of how much faith you have, but because the size of the person, God, you've put your faith in. God is okay with your doubts. He's not codependent. He doesn't need you, and He's not dependent on you. He's independent, and He exists whether you believe in Him or not, whether you put your faith in Him or not. He is God, whether you believe it or not, and He's okay. Listen, He is okay with you coming to Him with the little faith that you have. And He can use that faith the size of a mustard seed to move mountains, right? He can do incredible things in your life with just a little faith if you will put that faith in Him. The point I want you to take away from this is that any of these things can keep you from God. It can keep you from the life that God wants you to live. But you have to be bold. You have to be brave. You got to step across that line and make that choice and allow Christ to be the King of your life. Choose to commit all your life, all your will to the care and control of Christ. He will meet your needs. He will make you whole, and He will do incredible things in your life despite your hurts, habits, and hang-ups. Here's what I've learned. when you give those things over to Him, not only will He change your life, but He will use you to change the lives of other people. Listen, we hope you have a blessed day. I hope that you make that decision to commit your life to the care and control of Christ. It's the best decision that you could ever make, and it's so freeing. God loves you in your doubts. He'll take that guilt away, and He'll do new things in your life. Trust Him. Peace.